thank you for being with our family in our time of need. Thank you for your prayer, for the prayers and gifts to the Ray family. So let's definitely continue to pray for him and encourage him. Well, last Sunday, I had a short sermon. This Sunday is going to be kind of a long sermon. So, but what I want to do these next few Sundays, just get it up to the time of Jesus' the death on the cross. But the things that happened before the death and then after Easter, we're going to talk a little bit about the things after his death. So we can do like a little series of it. So this morning, we're going to be getting all four accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John's account of it. Because you think about it, you could almost bet if they would have 4 or 5 people here that seen a wreck, you can have 4 or 5 different views of what happened. So this morning we're going to get all 4 Gospels' view of it. But first of all, before we start with that, let's look in Matthew chapter 26, verse 36 through 46. Matthew chapter 26, 36 through 46. Let's stand as we read God's word. It says, Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane, and said to his disciples, Sit here while I go and pray over there. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. He went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, a second time he went away and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup cannot pass from me, unless I drink it, your will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes was heavy. So he left them, went away again, and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same word. Then he came to his disciples and said to them, Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. Lord, just thank you so much for your word. I pray, Lord, that you take everything away that would hinder us from hearing your word this morning, Lord. Just take all the distractions, take everything out of our minds, the worries and the concerns and different things that happened this past week. Lord, just clear it off our minds where we can concentrate on you right now. Thank you, Lord, for loving us. In Jesus' name. The title of the lesson of the sermon is The Betrayal of a Friend with a Kiss. We see here that Jesus knew that his time was short. He knew that his betrayer was about to come. And he could about imagine the hurt that Jesus was feeling. Being betrayed by one of his closest friends, one of his disciples. And yet, Jesus went in the garden and he told his disciples, Watch and pray. What? Lest ye enter into temptation. Because think about temptation. It's not a matter of if you're going to get tempted, but a matter of when you're going to get tempted. Anybody that was tempted this week? Anybody was tempted this morning? Then you know, I think I'm going to just stay in bed. I'm just tired. One Sunday won't hurt. And you see, Satan tempts us. But you know what? We need to watch and pray. Because prayer is very powerful. How many of y'all believe prayer is powerful? Amen. You know why prayer is so powerful? Because it's talking to our Heavenly Father. And our Heavenly Father could do anything that He wants to do. And He could calm any storm that comes in our life. He could calm any problems that comes our way. He could calm the worries that comes our way. Even here, when we see that Jesus was sorrowful, and He knew that His time was short, even when He prayed, "Oh Lord, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me." But you can't stop there. You got to go to the end of that verse. It says, "Nevertheless," what? "Not my will, but your will be done." How many of us is willing to pray that this morning? "Lord, not my will, but your will be done." It's a lot easier said than done. Because what is that old saying? Be careful what you pray for. Because you might get it. How many times people say, "Well, I prayed for patience, and I should have never prayed for patience, but God showed me it," huh? But we see here that Jesus was willing to go all the way. He was willing to do whatever the Father wanted Him to do. Even though He knew that His time was short, it still hurt. Anybody ever got betrayed by somebody before? Even a close friend or something like that? Doesn't that hurt? But we see here that aren't we like the disciples? When Jesus came back, He found them sleeping. Any of us ever slept on a job before? Instead of been praying and instead of seeking God's will? How many times people say, "Man, I was praying last night, I fell asleep on my prayers, and I woke up the next morning, I forgot to finish my prayers." We get tired. Our body is just like it says here. Let me try to find the verse where it says it. Verse 41 says, "The Spirit indeed is what? Willing. But what is the last part? But the flesh is weak." Any of y'all your flesh got weak before? And we needed a boost from God? And when we prayed, God gave us the strength that we need. Now this is really the verses I want to talk about. Like I said, we're going to look in Matthew, then in Mark, in Luke, and in John. Get all four different views. Matthew chapter 26, 47 through 56. Says, "And while He was still speaking, behold, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now his betrayer had given them a sign, saying, Whomever I kiss, he is the one, seize him. Immediately he went to Jesus and said, Greeting, Rabbi, and kissed him. But Jesus said to him, Friend. See, he didn't say betrayer. He didn't say enemy. But he said, friend. Think about it. Even when we fall short and fail him and we pray to him, he still calls us friend. Aren't you glad that God sees us, even though we fail Him and mess up, He still calls us a friend. So if He could call us friends, why do we turn our backs on other people? Are we better than Jesus? That's a good question, huh? Because how many of us is guilty of doing that? Turning our backs on other people. It says, then they came and laid hands on Jesus and took him. And suddenly one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hands and drew his sword, struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And if you think about it, a few verses before, what did Jesus tell Peter? Watch and pray. What? Lest you fall into temptation. And what happened? What did Peter do? He fell into that temptation and cut off his ear. It says, but Jesus said to him, put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot pray to my Father, and He will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the Scriptures be fulfilled that it must happen thus? In that hour Jesus said to the multitude, have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temples, and you did not seize me. But all this was done that the Scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. Then let's look in Mark chapter 14, verse 43 through 52. It says, and immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, with a great multitude with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the scribes and elders. Now his betrayer had given him a sign, saying, whomever I kiss, he is the one, seize him, and lead him away safely. As soon as he had come, immediately he went up to him and said to him, Rabbi, Rabbi, and kissed him. Then they laid their hands on him and took him. And one of those who stood by drew his sword, struck the servant of the high priest, and cut off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, have you come out against me with swords and clubs to take me? I was with you daily in the temple, teaching, and you did not seize me, but that the Scriptures might be fulfilled. Then they all forsook him and fled. Now a certain man followed him, having linen clothing and thrown around his naked body. And the young man laid hold of him, and he left the linen clothes and fled from them naked. Then in Luke chapter 47 through 53, it says, and while he was still speaking, behold, a multitude, and he who was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them and drew near to him and kissed him. But Judas said to him, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? When those around him saw what was going to happen, and said to him, Lord, will we strike? Shall we strike with the sword? And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered and said, permit even this, and he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, captains of the temple, and the elders who had come to him, have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you daily in the temple, you did not try to seize me, but this is your hour and the power of darkness. And now John chapter 18, verse 1 through 11. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over the brook Kidron, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered, and Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples. Then Judas, having received a detachment of troops and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus therefore knew all things that would come upon him, went forward and said to them, whom are you seeking? They answered him, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus said to them, I am he. And Judas, who betrayed him, also stood with them. Now when he had said to them, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground. Then he answered them again, whom are you seeking? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I have told you that I am he. Therefore, if you seek me, let these go their way, that the sayings might be fulfilled which he spoke. Of those whom you have gave me, I have lost none. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it, and struck the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. So Jesus said to Peter, put your sword into your sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me? So I want to look at the four Gospels right here, and different ones had different sayings. But if you look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, Matthew, Mark, and John, there's something about while Jesus is still speaking, that Judas, one of the 12, one of the disciples, came with a multitude of people, with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the elders of people. And you think about it. Jesus, did they really have to come with clubs and torches and swords and all that? Jesus is willing to give himself freely for us. He knew that his hour was up. Even when he came to God and prayed, Lord, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. But he said, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. They did not have to come upon him as robbers, because he was willing to go with them of his free will. Because the purpose that he came on this earth was to do what? To die for us. To save us from what? Ourselves. Think about it. Who is our worst enemy? Ourselves is our worst enemy. How many of us judge us harder than other people judge us and all that? And we need to watch, because we always like to put the blame on everybody else. But you cannot blame somebody else for your sinning. Because you got a free choice. You got a free will. And Jesus was willing to go with them. But they came up to Jesus as a robber and a thief. And then if you look in Luke, it talks about Judas went before them and drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? Could you about imagine? Again, Judas, one of the 12 disciples, just think of how many hours Jesus spent with his disciples, trying to teach them, trying to share with them, trying to help them out and guide them in their walk and in their life. And Judas got greedy, huh? Judas was the treasurer. And every time something came up, even when, remember when a couple of weeks ago I preached how Mary and Martha was at Jesus at their house, and Mary scooped down and took some very costly perfume and washed Jesus' feet with it and wiped it with her hair. What was Judas' response? Why are you wasting that? We could have done that and sold it and gave it to the poor. See, Judas was always concerned about the money. Money is good, but it's also bad, huh? Amen. We need it to live. But so many times people have money as their God. And even Judas sold Jesus for what? 30 pieces of silver. Greed got the best of him. You know how many times greed got the best of people today? How many times greed gets the best of people today? The almighty dollar is their God, but you know what's the sad part about the almighty dollar being your God? That dollar cannot save you. That dollar cannot buy you health. That dollar cannot buy your way to heaven. That dollar cannot buy your relationship with Jesus Christ. One day, all the dollars that they have and the money that they're going to have here on this earth, you know what? They're going to burn away. Only thing that's going to remain is Jesus Christ. Amen. And if you don't have that relationship with Him before it's too late, you're going to die and spend eternity in hell. You never see a hearse pulling a bank. You almost need a bank to have a funeral these days. But you don't see a hearse pulling a bank. Money is not everything. But Jesus Christ is everything. Jesus Christ should be our all in all. Think about it. Judas came. Not only did he betray Jesus with a 30 piece of silver, he betrayed Jesus with a kiss. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 15, Judas greeted him by saying, Rabbi. What does Rabbi mean? Teacher. How many of y'all can remember some teachers in your life that made a big impression on y'all? I can remember one of my second grade teachers. She was a little short old lady, but a sweet young lady. And I can never forget her, Miss LeBlanc. But some things like that just sticks with us. But a teacher, somebody that helped him spend time with him, you know what? It hurts when you try to spend time with people, try to teach them and help them out, and they just stab you in the back. See, that's what Judas did. He didn't have a knife, but that kiss was almost like having a knife in his hand, stabbing Jesus in the back. He kissed him. It says Judas greeted him by saying Rabbi and kissed him. Same thing in Mark 14:45. It is almost like a slap in the face and a kiss, huh? And in John chapter 18, verse 4 through 6, it says, when Jesus asked whom they're seeking, which is really, John, that's right. I thought I wrote the wrong thing, but it was John. It says, when Jesus asked them whom they were seeking, They said, Jesus. And Jesus said to them, I am he. And they drew back and fell to the ground. See, they was amazed that Jesus didn't try to hide. And how many of us, when problems come, we try to hide and sneak our way out of it? Anybody ever try to sneak your way out of things? A lot of times when these kids, sometimes they get confronted with things, and what's the first thing they want to do? It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Or they made me do it. How many of y'all ever heard that as parents? How many of us said that when we was little? I didn't do it. They made me do it. Always blame the older brothers and sisters, huh? But Jesus wasn't afraid. He said, I am he. And it puzzled them that they fell back. Again, it said, Jesus answered, who are you seeking? Jesus was not a coward. Are you glad that Jesus wasn't like us? Because be honest with yourself. How many times are we cowards? Anybody ever kind of denied Jesus before? Think about it. Have you ever denied Jesus before? In all four Gospels recorded, Peter cut off the ear of the high priest's servant, and Jesus healed him. Jesus said to them, those who take the sword will perish by the sword. See the compassion of Jesus? Jesus didn't stand there and say, ha! You got what you deserve. You came up to me and you see my disciples are going to take care of me. Was that Jesus' response? No. Even though they came against him, Jesus kept his cool. Another thing, we not like Jesus, because sometimes, how many of y'all ever lost your cool before? When things came up, we lost it, huh? And you know what? It won't be the last time. But Jesus took that ear and put it back and healed him and told Peter, put your sword away. For those who live by the sword will what? Die by the sword. See, you know what sword we need? The Word of God. That's the sword we need to live by. Then in Matthew chapter 26, verse 53 and 54, or do you not think that I cannot pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the scriptures be fulfilled that it must happen thus? So you see, Jesus didn't need his disciples to protect him. Because if Jesus wanted to, he could have just prayed to God and said, God, enough. Send down your angels and wipe them out. But if he knew that if you would do that, then we would be in trouble today. Because we wouldn't have salvation today if he would have wiped out those soldiers. He saw beyond that. And he saw us, and he loved us enough to go through it all for us to have a chance today. And aren't you glad that he loved us enough? That he didn't call a whole bunch of angels to wipe them out? Aren't you glad that he went all the way for us to have a hope today? And our hope is in Jesus Christ. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Luke, Jesus said, "Why did you come against me with clubs and swords? I was with you daily in the temple, and you did not take me." Think about it. They could have took Jesus at any time. But it wasn't time yet. Jesus, God has a time. Just like that old verse in the Bible, there's a season and time for everything. It wasn't time yet for them to take him. And you know what? It's not time for God to take us yet, because he didn't take us yet. But when it's time, he's going to take us. Because I guarantee you, most of us shouldn't be here today for the stupid things that we did when we was younger. But God has a purpose that he still has us here for.
Amen.
After all that, the disciples fled. Was that O.C.? When times get tough, the tough gets going. We run away, huh? You find out how tough you truly are when problems come. And most of the time, we're not as tough as we thought we was. We run. We want to blame God. Why, God? Why are you letting this happen? Well, maybe we need to stop and start praying, Lord, why did I do what I did? God don't move. God don't change. We do the changing. We do the moving. The disciples fled. In Mark 14, 51 and 52, it says, "Now a certain young man followed him, having a linen cloth threw around his naked body. And the young men laid hold of him, and he left the linen clothes and fled from them naked." See, he tried to kill Jesus, and when the man grabbed him, he was able to sneak away. But you know what? Jesus was willing to go with him, even though he knew the times was getting tough. He was willing to go because he saw you and he saw me, that we needed salvation today. And I'm so glad, like in that prayer he said, "Lord, not my will, but your will be done." I'm glad he was willing to go for us. Next Sunday, we're going to continue on what happened with the trials and different things. You know, sometimes Easter is good, but sometimes people don't really think of what Easter really means. The Easter ain't no bunny rabbit with eggs. Go figure. I thought chickens laid eggs. But now they try to confuse the kids and say the bunny rabbit laid eggs. But you know what? Easter ain't all about the rabbit. Easter is about what our Lord and Savior did for us. sad when you got those Poinsettia Christian and Easter Lily Christians that the only time they can go to church is twice a year. I don't know about y'all, but I need more than twice a year to a church.
I need it more than twice a week sometimes.
Yeah. But let's not be some of the disciples that fell asleep on the job. Let us keep watching and praying, because temptation is real. Temptation is strong and powerful. Because if it's going to be so strong and so powerful, we wouldn't yield into it.
That's right.
Satan is powerful.
Yeah.
But remember this. Satan and temptation is only as powerful as we let him be. Because our God is greater than temptation. Our God is greater than Satan. Because one day, God's going to put Satan in his place.
Amen.
And one day, he's going to put us in our place in heaven.
Amen.
With him. What a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, what? We will sing and shout the victory. Well, boy, we're going to start preaching again. Well, I'm going to get that a little bit quicker than I thought I was doing. But you know what? God is so good.
Amen.
Even though sometimes we're not as good, God is still good to us. Just like us with our kids. No matter what our kids do, we still love our kids. And God's the same way with us.
Unconditional love.
He still loves his kids, because you know what? I'm a child of the God. Of God. When I was 9 years old, when I walked down the aisle and only met at Jonah Revival on Wednesday night, I became a child. That doesn't mean that I was perfect. That doesn't mean that I'm never going to sin again. All it's saying is I'm a child of God, that if I do sin, I can come up to God and say, God, I am sorry. Help me to do better.
Amen.
Because, Lord, I cannot do good on my own. The only way I can be more better is through your help. Remember, what? I can do all things through Christ that gives me strength. Let's stand. Lord, just thank you so much for your word. Lord, just thank you so much that you loved us enough, that you was willing to die for us. Even though Judas betrayed you with a kiss. Thank you so much that you didn't call a whole bunch of angels to wipe out the soldiers. Lord, thank you for going all the way. Help us, Lord, to go all the way for you. Lord, if there's somebody here that don't know you, that didn't get to know you before us today. Or there's somebody here that needs to rededicate their lives, let them do it now. Or there's some that just need to come to the altar